I know. Now you're on the recording. Congratulations. So we went over the math part, and this was just to get a general feel. You have to practice a thing in order to learn a thing, right? Right. Remember doing the multiplication tables back in fourth grade? You were like, but now you know how to multiply. Ha! So, barely. Yeah, I know, right? Okay. But here's the trick is it depends on the test, it depends on the person, it depends on who's going to come up to you and say, how do you fix this math equation? And let's take out the 15%. We don't care about that. We understand that 1/2, oh, sweet baby. That's too big. 1/2 is also the same as saying 50%, right? We can all nod and go, yeah, that sounds great.
Yes.
Okay, cool. 1/2 is the same as saying 50%. So in the math world, that means multiplying something by 0.50, right? That's how you get the half of whatever. Boop. So that's a half. What's a doubling? 100%. So remember when we were doing the HCG levels, the doublings, you're multiplying all that by 100% to get it up to the next double. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, cool. So then what happens when we have to be weird? Geez, that's huge. And we don't want, so we got into the math. Yeah. Some of the math gets a little, there's decimals and all this other stuff, right? Do you think that we go by that in the X-ray world? No. Round it up, round it down. Don't care. Is it going to make that big of a difference? Nope. Coming out to 86.25 is not going to make that big of a difference, but I cannot guarantee what they will ask you on the AART exam. Follow? Okay. So doing the equations, why? Why you gotta do that? Doing the equations of like 85 kVp, and what does kVp stand for? Kilovoltage peak. Okay, 85. And why do we do 85 at, why do we write it out like this? You're like, you didn't actually tell us that. Yeah, I know. 85 at, God, that looks terrible, sorry. 85 at 12 mass. This is why we write it out like this, is because this is our equation for radiation, all right? It is 85 kilovolts, God bless, that's 85, kilovolt peak at 12 milliamperes per second to equal the radiation to get through there. Okay. Now, in the world of X-rays, and everything is yin and yang, and things can be changed, and you're not the same size as him, and you're not the same size as me, and getting things through people, that's the variations. And that's why they're not exactly equal, because two of these factors can control two different things. So when we say it's 85 at 12, just know that this is what we're talking about. Okay, we'll just erase at this point, because that's what it wants to do. Like it was on erase. So let's think about you remember I told you that there was ranges in the body? It's not a very good person, but whatever. We're having a bad day. So do you remember what the range was for a chest x-ray?
110 to 125.
About 110 to 125. What is the range for an abdomen? Do we remember?
85. Around there.
Around there. I'm going to ask you what is the exact range for an abdomen. I hope not, because I just want you to be able to know. And there's a flurry of activity. Y'all good? What's
I had to get my notes.
You had to get your notes. Okay, bless you. So, according to the book, it's like 70 to 85. So, what is the thickest part of a body?
Your tummy. Your belly.
Okay. So, why am I not shooting 110 to 125 at the abdomen? Why is this different?
Is it because there's not a lot of bone? There's not as much density in the abdomen?
Well, keep thinking. I want you to think along those lines. Throw out answers, what you think it might be.
Is it the lower?
Not to scale. So what do we have in the chest that's really, really super important that we want to see?
The lungs.
The lungs. And what else is in there?
Your heart.
Your heart, mediastinum, the good important stuff right here. But what are we supposed to see on a chest x-ray to know that it is penetrated enough? The posterior ribs, which are, say in the back. In the back. All right, cool.
Say in the back.
Nobody says a thing. I'm like, what?
I got confused.
It's all good.
I was like, what?
And we're supposed to try and be able to outline the T-spine. Okay. The hint is if you zapped through that chest x-ray, and I could play with this for 15 minutes to try and get an x-ray. You zap through a chest x-ray and you see portions of the T-spine, then you have an adequately exposed chest x-ray. Does that make sense? Now, the reason why we do this so hot is because we're going through your chest, the thickest part to get through into that T-spine is like this. But there's only a few different densities between the heart and bone in here. But they all sit up on top of each other, right? And then we have the lungs. So that the kVp is the penetration power, the dump truck through the wall. Woo. kVp is the factor that we're going to look at if we do a hand, if we do a hip, if we do a knee, if we do anything to go, is it penetrated enough? Can I see what I need to see? Does that make sense? I can do a pelvis x-ray, not to scale. I can do a pelvis x-ray, but if it comes out completely white and I can only see a little bit of here and here, what does that say?
It's underexposed.
Underexposed, and I didn't penetrate it enough. What you're supposed to see on a pelvis x-ray is, you're supposed to see the sacrum, those little doobie daubers in the back, the little sacroiliac joints, the head of the acetabulum. You want me to get all into the obturator foramen. You just thought A&P was bad. Wait, it gets better. So, this is how we can tell if the penetration was good enough. Now, our fingers, hands, anything up until your shoulders, we don't worry about penetration. Nobody cares. It's going to show up on the x-ray, I guarantee you, because our boards have a latitude that is set, and it goes, hi, I have a board that only accepts 45 and above. 45 and above. And they also have a max. And usually that max is like, I've never seen a board above 130. Period, end of story. I've never seen a machine that goes above 130. Period, end of story. So our boards have latitudes that they can only accept. All right. If you put a hand down on this x-ray and you just shoot it because it's there, the only thing that you can trip up is you didn't hit the correct exposure factors to set it to a hand. If you accidentally shoot it as a chest because you weren't paying attention, you didn't hit the right patient, you hit the wrong button, sometimes things happen, you're going to overexpose it. And then the picture will come up and you're like, oh God, what did I do? You overexposed it. Because why? That exposure factor is going to be like, oh. And that's when you know, oh God, I messed up. I'm going to have to come back. So that was a long walkabout on a short pier. Let's go back. The kVp affects penetration. And we can remember that with the P in penetration. All right. I'll get there eventually, I'm sure. There are ranges that are set in the boards and the machines. But according to the X-ray world and the AART, you're supposed to learn. Nobody knows that yet. Oh, I'm teaching you things in second year. Just teach you now, because the reality of it is you're going to have to understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. You're going to have to understand why the techs are going and walking away, because you can ask them, well, why did you set, what button did you push? What did you go up? And they will not have an answer. They were like, I just did it. It's because we get so trained to eventually, I can look at a person and I know that I need to go down on factors. I can look at a person and know that I need to go up on some factors. I can look at a person and go, okay, they have COPD. I need to do this for an adjustment. I can look at them and go, okay, they have ascites and I need to do this for an adjustment. It becomes ingrained in you to where you kind of can't explain it, but we still have to teach you why that happens, okay? And I know that's like, I can't just say it's magic, y'all, and just let you go about your lives. I'd love to do that, because then this will be a really short class and you could already just be x-ray techs. Cool? But there are some issues, getting to the fun part. Ooh! Dun, 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 dun. Of how kVp affects different things. And mass, we have to know what that affects. So why? No, it's fine. It's whatever. It's whatever. So we shoot a chest, 110 to 125 kVp, in order to penetrate the mediastinum. So let's think this through here. If we shot it any hotter, what would happen?
Wait, can you repeat what you just said?
If we shot it any hotter, and by hotter, I mean if we used more kVp, say like, just giggles here. I used 140 because I'm like, I gotta get through that man's chest, because he's got a big chest, right? Big barrel chest, and he's a big burly oil filled guy, and he's been, working for years out in the mud or whatever. And you're like, oh, I've got to get through that chest. What would happen if we shot a chest at 140?
You would burn it?
You would burn it. Why?
Because it's
Too much for the group to handle.
I like that. Here's what's going to happen. Your board or your image receptor is going to be super sad because you can actually put too much radiation to the board and it will hopefully not fry the thing, but whatever. You will burn out this gentleman's lungs. Lungs only have a certain, so we've all they keep kicking you over to CT, right? It's called a Hounsfield unit. Lungs, water, fats, liver, every single thing in the human body has a different Hounsfield unit, and this is only in relation to CT. But this makes sense when you can describe that. You remember the contrast we talked about? There is white, gray, different gray, black. Would this be a short scale of contrast? That is a short scale of contrast because you don't have that many shades of gray. There's only lungs here, not a lot of other tissues. All right, so it only has one definitive type of tissue in there. Lung air. Short contrast. Your tum-tum we're pretending that's the diaphragm. Diaphragm. Your tummy has all kinds of different things. And then there's the big one that goes all the way around. I mean, it's just a hodgepodge of stuff, right? Like a lot of different tissues, a lot of different fluids. You can have air in there. You've got blood vessels, a lot of different densities of material. Does that make sense? That's why so we want to see, no, in the abdomen, we want to see as many of these densities as possible, right? So that's why we have to bring this down and shoot it. I believe in you. At a lower kV so that we do not shoot all the way through. The biggest controlling factor, okay, so kVp controls penetration. We're going to have to learn that. Just know that over and over and over again. kVp also does control density, but at a smaller effect. The biggest one that controls density, which would be, the biggest one that controls density would be mAs. Holy potatoes. You know, this is just going to be comical to watch me trying to mess with this damn board, right? So let's talk about mAs.
When we're hating ourselves over the physics, we're just gonna have to rewatch the lectures.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Physics is going to get, oh, this is just the baby part. So. In a hand, in a wrist, in a forearm, in an elbow, in something that's small, do you have a long scale of contrast or a short scale of contrast? Short. Tell me why.
Because there's not a lot of organs.
Because there's not a lot of organs to see. There's not a lot of variations between fingers and skin and muscles, right? There's just a little, when you get up here, it starts to get a little strainier and blah, 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 blah. But you still have what am I on? Ha! Changed it that time. So you're on a shorter scale of contrast.
we did a little kid's hand, and then his little brother was having his came back, and he saw the X-ray pop up, and he goes, "Mommy."
I tell people that we're all skeletons on the inside, and they're like, yeah, we are.
He was like at least 3. He goes, "Oh, your hand looks like this." There was a little girl. They put the shield on her, and she's like, looks back at her mom like, "Look what I got."
Oh, that'd be awesome for a little kid. Be like, girl, this is the newest thing. So we don't have a lot. I'm going to have to be a better artist. I'm sorry. We don't have a lot of stuff that we want to see on a hand. We want to see the bones, and we want to see the trabecula of the bones, which is the little, if you've seen an x-ray and you blow it up, you're like, whoa, it's not going to do it. You'll see the little fine lines. Have you seen those on your monitors yet? Ask somebody next time, whenever you've got an x-ray, say, can you blow that up so that I can see the trabecula? Trabecula. You should be able to see the very fine lines of the bones on the x-ray. Because here's the fun part. You can break a bone and it can be just a teeny tiny little hairline fracture. Okay. This is so we don't have a lot to see on the hands or the anything smalls. So are we going to be that concerned with penetrating power? No. What we do need to be concerned with is not varying too far away from the factors that are already programmed into the machine. And yes, we're going to have to learn the general rules of where that is. Remember the other day I went through and was like, I think hands are like 50. Was a hand any bigger than the wrist? Not by a lot, but you'll see some technologists who are very, what's the proper phrase? Retentive. And they're like, a wrist is done at 53.5. And you're like, all right, boomer.
54.
But here's what I'm trying to let you know is some of these folks are no, it has to be 56. And I will show you why. Just let me get there. So we start going up in size, right? We go up the hand and we get it to about the shoulders. Shoulders where I want to cut things off. So an elbow could be 60 something. Does that sound about right? Yeah, 60 something. A humerus, they're usually about 65 to 70. Has anybody shot a shoulder yet? No.
Mm-hmm.
What do they usually use?
Oh, like I was helping position.
That's fine. A shoulder, I'm going to say, is usually 70 to 75. You see, I start creeping up here. So a C-spine, what would you think we would use a C-spine at? Let's just go up in thickness and say, oh, it's about the same thickness as your shoulder.
Sure, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
I said sure, let's just say.
Yeah, let's just say. I don't know. Kelly was supposed to send me a technique chart on what to use. Oh, I could probably go get one. So let's think about it this way. Hands could correlate to the feet. This could be about an ankle. Okay. People got some bigger ankles. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is where the variance happens. Let's see, it's right around there. You see a pattern forming here? Mm-hmm. Everything I can correlate to the top, I can correlate to the bottom. So I'm not sitting here memorizing 15 sheets of a technique chart to use. There are ways that this is done on the general terms. All right. So, fun part. What did we say an abdomen was?
70 to 85.
So, what do you think an L spine is? An AP L spine.
70 to 75.
So, if you have an abdomen laying on the table,
Oh.
that looks exactly like an L spine, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do on an L spine? You just column it in a little bit. So that's exactly the same. Oh, look, we've got a thing going on here. Now, when you turn them laterally, things change, obviously. But I'm just showing you the generalities. So I can go a skull because it's a little different. It likes to be 80 to 85, depending on the technique or depending on which way I'm putting the skull. The angle through here, there's not as many organs and bones to pass through than if I do this way and shoot like this, or this way and shoot like this, because all of your bones are on the base of your skull that you have to shoot through and penetrate. All right, so there's the generality of the skull. And you're like, well, why is it more? Why is it more than all this other stuff? Because you've got a lot of bone structure that you need to shoot through. And your brains. Your brains are thick. So, let's see, what else is there? Shoulders. Go, oh yeah, I got him. C-spine. So the only thing that you really have to know that is different from all of this, these are your kVps, right? The chests are 110 to 125. That's the different one. And then mass is what controls everything else. So we're going to talk about mass. And what was mass? Milliamperes per second. And we went into this whole triangle Illuminati stuff about how
Say what?
sorry. How no. This is the answer to all your problems.
Were you just making sure that we were awake?
Yes. Sometimes I do. Have you not noticed? Hi. Good morning. I ain't dumb. I wasn't born yesterday. So if you have the seconds, you can figure out the mass. If you have the MA, you can figure out the mass. On the machines at the hospital, can you figure this interdependently? Do we know what that means? Can I?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
You asked me.
That's fine. I'll catch up.
Please define.
Please define. So back in the old days, remember I told you we used to have to use washing machine dials and click it 17 clicks there would be marked with little, I kid you not, fractions.
Ooh. I love fractions.
Good for you. I don't. Or they'd be like 0.02, 0.04, and I'm like, what? Thank God there was a whole technique chart on the board. Anyways, setting things independently. Let's not even throw in the big word there. Setting things independently. Used to, you could change the MA all by itself, or you could change the seconds all by itself. But now, why? Why bother? We only have certain MA stations that they pick. That's like 300, 500, 150. I don't know, I'm just generalizing. So they do the math for you, and they just stick these quantifiers, boop, 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 and the machine chooses it for you. So what happens is, too big. The only thing you can, Oh my God, I had two of them. I know, right? The only thing that you can change on your machine is kVp or mAs. You see where I'm going with this? You don't have to know too much about, oh my gosh, 0.08 seconds plus XYZ equals this mass. We have to know how to get there, and that's why I'm teaching you how to get there, but I could care less because here's the ultimate defining factor. I need you to be able to tell me what the mass does. So here we go. If you know,
Y'all never see like the space documentaries? That looks like a black hole. It's like sucking in all the words.
all right then. I mean, it could be. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a cool dude. So let's think of it this way. Let's just kVp was what?
The voltage peak.
Mm-hmm. And it controls
The penetration.
fabulous.
All guys. Look up.
You're on it, Jonathan. Get you up here and teach this. I love it. Come on. Steven's over there asleep.
Steven
God
got
bless. You don't pass this test, bro. I can't help you. Because it only gets harder from here. We're going to have to figure out ohms. We're going to have to figure out the resistance of wires and voltage. And y'all going to learn electricity.
What is AC besides air conditioning?
Yesterday.
Yes, but I want to hear it from Tabitha.
Something else.
Alternating currents.
He's like, I turn off the AC,
I know that one.
and I'm like,
AEC.
well, it's not like
automatic
AC.
That's something I know about.
And
AEC is the automatic exposure control. Which one are you talking about? I don't even know.
AC, because it sounded like he was saying AC, and then the OC student
Was like air conditioner. Yeah. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, why are you turning on
Well,
AC for
I
fat
was like,
people? It's hot. Like,
A, you can't change the alternating current, so there's that. And then you can turn off the AEC.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about, AEC, because I really had to listen.
That's when you have to say, I'm sorry, can you enunciate?
yeah.
He was like,
Oh, for the swimmers, yeah.
he's like,
Yeah, I turn off the AC. I'm like,
Yeah, I heard
if they start
first, and I
sweating,
was
does
like,
it work better?
Oh, sunshine. Maybe. That's one of the factors I have never thought about. I don't even know what the heck I was doing. Mass. Milliamperes per second. So in the things that we can change, kVp is penetration, right? Okay, we'll stop thinking about that. So mass, just wait. So when it's raining, and it's just a light, misty drizzle, and it's like, oh, this is like Austin, this is nice.
When is it ever like
Is it?
drizzle here?
It doesn't. It's just very little droplets, right? Just
The beginning of a storm.
maybe, I don't know. But say you're standing outside and it starts sprinkling. Boop, boop.
Oh, God.
Stop laughing. Just a little bit. It's sprinkling. Okay. Let's quantify that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, start sprinkling more. Okay. I already gave up. Lost count. Don't laugh. Let's see if this works. Now it looks like light here. It's the same number, Tabitha. So the best way that I can describe mass, it is the quantity of X-rays that we are producing per second.
Oh, okay.
That is tied into the milliamperes that we use, because we're playing, so kVp is kilovoltage peak. What comes out of this?
Electricity.
I love you. Do we know what size voltage comes out of a house wire?
No.
110. Okay, 110 volts. Your dryer, your stove, and your hot water heater are usually 220s. The transformers that you see on the lines that go through the streets, those are usually like 440s, I believe.
You can ask my husband.
Oh, sweet.
Text him like.
Just,
Be
no,
like,
I'm just kidding. But here's the thing. These are volts, volts, volts. We are playing with kilovolts, 1,000 times. Feel me? So a chest x-ray at 110 kVp is how many volts?
110.
There you go. A lot. Let's do an easier one. 50 kVp is 50,000 volts. But it's not the volts that kill you,
It's the mass.
it's the amps. You know that, right? What does your husband do?
He works on the utility pole.
He's a
Utility
lineman.
pole. He's a lineman. All right, cool. So it's not the volts that I'm killing you, it's the amps. Right? So we play with some pretty fantastic things in order to create radiation. That's what it takes to create radiation. And we go zzz, onto the anode, and it burns into a filament, and then it sparks off and shoots X-rays. So the mass is the number of X-rays that we produce at that time. That makes, oh God.
So for a chest x-ray that's at like 110 and you shoot it at 1.25, then you're really shooting over like 1.125 beam. Does that
So,
make sense?
Yes.
In my mind it did.
In your mind, it won't. Because I don't know what to do. So let's look at this real quick. How many little dots do I have here? I don't even know.
A lot.
But let's just put
How many litres?
56.
56. Let's say that's 56 and I shot it for 0.1 seconds. So what would that be? Here's where we can do some math, y'all. Here's the math. 56 times 0.01. 0.01 seconds equals 0.56 mass. So in all actuality, that wasn't a lot. Right? See where I'm getting at? But if I change that to be, let's say that seems okay. I wanted to do 2 seconds. Friggin', that's fine. Say I wanted to do 2 seconds. I should denote that so nobody. 56 times 2 seconds, which is actually a lot in X-ray world. 112 mass. Because most of our seconds are brought down into 0.5, which is half of a second. See where I'm getting at? So that would actually be 112 mass. That's a lot more. Exactly. That's a lot more than what it was a second ago. You see where I'm getting at? So we can have a defined number of X-ray photons that we are creating. 56. 56 all day long. But it's going to be how long I sit on that rotor, how long I sit on the second button, that can determine how many actual X-rays go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what Matthew was saying yesterday. Right? You gotta hold it down.
Yeah, press halfway.
You gotta press halfway to rotor it, and that's actually just spinning up the anode. But when you, and so I don't know if you've ever been into, you're taking an X-ray and you expect a little beep, beep. And then there's some X-rays where it's like beep, oh God. I kid you not, there are some X-rays that require a long exposure time, and these may be bigger folks, and you're on that button for a long time, and you're like, oh God. And you keep going until it stops, because if you don't, then A, you've messed up the image that you were trying to do, and you're going to have to re-expose them. This took a lot for some people to grasp. The machine will cut off when it's ready. You're just not used to hearing a long exposure time. See what I'm getting at? And man, that just, I'm like, but you're still only producing 56. See what I'm saying? Because that can be rearranged any number of ways, depending on, and here's the fun part, come on, depending on what we want to see. So if I have a finger, if I have a finger, I'm not going to use a lot of mass, right? I don't need a lot of mass because I can penetrate it. And I don't need to see a lot of the skin. There's no muscle. Well, there is a few muscles. They're very tiny, blah, 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 blah. So we don't need a lot of mass. So usually, a finger may be 50 at 0.01. Actually, you know what? Give me 2 minutes. I'm going to steal a technique chart. And I'm going to show you the magic. Let me see if Jody has one.
I did that little session with Matthew.
Yeah, he was just talking to us about that stuff.
Well, it's because they didn't want to go back and.
Yeah, we're just saying about that. Because Fabian was yelling at everyone.
Was he really? How was he for the rest of the night?
He was fine later. Like I think it was
He just
there's too many people.
Down. Yeah.
I think for him, it just there's
Like
too many
overwhelming.
people.
I think he goes in like anxiety.
Yeah. But then like once everybody left, it kind of calmed down. And he left me.
Oh, he's got like a health problem.
Oh, yeah.
He has I think he needs a
Nobody
liver.
asked you to.
He needs a liver, bro.
Yeah, no one asked you, dude.
Oh, but I know.
Turn around. This is a
Nobody
bad
asked.
girl conversation.
Cal.
But I think he left at like 8:30 or something.
No, he usually leaves around that time.
No. Well, the other
No,
night
he usually leaves at like 10.
Really?
He usually doesn't leave
Well, we
until
were there.
like.
He was leaving early, and we were stuck with Matthew and Joseph.
No, but it was like 8:30 and he left. And
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
funny
1 to
because the
9:30.
text just turned around and we had like a whole bunch of conversation.
Great. Stole one.
That's weird.
Man, this looks complicated, right? There are lots of little debuggers. This is mandated by the state. Every technique chart has to be with an X-ray machine. My battery's running low. Oh no, I don't have another. Girl,